Hi, everybody. In this video, we're going to talk about Chapter 6 in your textbook, Interpersonal Communication at Work. We're going to start by talking about what interpersonal communication is. Then we'll get into how it applies in workplace relationships. We'll distinguish between professional and personal communication. And we will wrap up by discussing professional etiquette in the workplace. So starting with interpersonal communication, we'll go ahead and define this first. So interpersonal communication is the co-creation of meaning as people interact. It is dyadic or occurs in dyads, which is two people, so two interactants. Interpersonal communication occurs among supervisors, subordinates, co-workers, and customers. And interpersonal communication is key to the formation of relationships, professional and workplace development, your ability to relate with other people, as it kind of supports your goals toward achieving and striving for professional excellence. And interpersonal communication also helps you form professional connections with other coworkers, leaders, and clients. So therefore, your interpersonal relationships at work provide a supportive social system that will aid you in both your professional development and your job satisfaction. So now we're going to talk about the different types of relationships that we can have in the workplace. We'll start with superior-subordinate relationships. So a superior or a supervisor employer is typically the higher status person in this relationship, whereas a subordinate or employee is the lower status person. And we see a few different communication behaviors that manifest in this type of relationship, and we're going to go through them all. So first is semantic information distance. So this is just basically that employees and supervisors do not share the same views of some fundamental areas, such as organizational issues or basic job duties. So what the boss thinks is wrong with the organization may not be the same things as the employees think is wrong with the organization. And they also might have differing opinions about what their roles and responsibility in the workplace should be. There's also upward distortion, which is when a message is sent up the chain of command, so from subordinate to supervisor, are distorted, usually in a more positive way. Nobody wants to give the boss bad news. Gatekeeping refers to some, but not all information being passed on. And this can go either way, from supervisor to subordinate or subordinate to superior. Summarization is when an employee summarizes information in a way that places emphasis on certain aspects of the messages. So you're summarizing the week's progress, typically maybe highlighting the things that did get done and downplaying some of the things that maybe we're going to leave till Monday or something like that. We also have withholding, which is just information not being passed on. So maybe you want to deal with the problem as either a superior or a subordinate and see if you can solve it before you try to make other people aware of it. There's also general distortion, which is when a message is changed to serve the sender's purpose. And this can have a really distinct impact on information and the communication of information in this relationship. And supervisors can seek to minimize these behaviors by limiting the number of people that a message must travel to before it gets to employees, go to the source of information directly for clarification, keep communication channels open so that subordinates feel comfortable disclosing information to them, and also never shoot the messenger. So that is a good, if you get mad at the person delivering bad news, that is a very effective way of discouraging them from being honest with you when there's a problem. So it's important to not do that. We also have ingratiation, which is just acting warm or friendly to a supervisor, even if maybe like you don't actually feel as warm and friendly toward them as you're behaving. And then finally, there's also advocacy, which is a persuasive technique in which you evaluate your boss's needs and preferences and then develop messages, arguments, and proposals that line up with those needs and preferences. So this is very important if you're trying to make some sort of organizational change or maybe advocate for your own personal benefit or vacation time or something like that. It is very important to kind of use these techniques to level with your superior so that they're more likely to agree with you. So now we're going to talk about coworker relationships. These are relationships that are based on the fulfillment of needs and colleagues and coworkers working together to complete common tasks in the workplace. So your communication network is a group of individuals who regularly share a line of communication. In a lot of organizations, we'll see organizational charge, which are the lines of communication predetermined by the organization. So the organization's idea of how communication should occur and between whom. The formal communication network reflects this organizational chart. It's based on it. So it's who's directly above you, who's directly below you, and who is maybe horizontal. Informal communication networks are networks that develop in the white space of that organizational chart. It's also known as the grapevine. And actually, the majority of workplace communication occurs here in this white space informally. So it is super, super important to think about and monitor your own communication behaviors when you're communicating with your informal network and not just your formal communication network. And finally, we're going to talk about customer-client relationships. We have a couple different people that can be involved in this type of relationship. For example, we have external customers who are people or entities that your organization serves or provides products to. We also have internal customers who are internal parts of the organization or employees that need services or products from other parts of the organization to complete their work. And then we also have customer relations, and this just refers to the general interaction between employees or representatives of an organization or business and the people to which the organization sells or serves. It's very important to maintain positive customer relations. And the ability to do this centers on effective communication and is essential in today's business world. If you don't have customers or clients, your business or service or product will not survive. So it's very important that we demonstrate good communication with these people so they keep coming back and buying our stuff or our services. Now we're going to distinguish between personal and professional communication. As you develop a feeling of trust and affection toward coworkers and you start to become more than just coworkers, you're kind of friends, and even sometimes clients and bosses too, you'll find yourself maintaining interpersonal relationships with them outside of work, in addition to just your interactions at work. So we're going to define a couple of things that are related to this. So intimacy is an experience consisting of felt emotions and perceptions of understanding or a relationship that is characterized by affection and trust. A lot of times when we hear the word intimacy, we think about physical or sexual intimacy, but it is not necessarily the case. We can be intimate with our friends, but depending on how much information about ourselves that we trust them with, like how much are we willing to talk about maybe some of our non-work related issues or emotions with them. But this can get kind of dangerous too, because sometimes if you have intimate friendships or relationships with coworkers, they can turn into romance. And we see a lot of times where this works out for the better and people are very happy, but it also can compromise your professional integrity if it does go poorly. So it is very important to be careful about those pitfalls of workplace relationships. I do want to give you guys a little bit of a trigger warning because we're also going to talk about sexual harassment on this slide. So if you need to like pause the video or skip this part, now is your opportunity to do so. But sexual harassment is defined as unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature that constitutes as sexual harassment when one, submission to such conduct is made either explicitly or implicitly a term or condition of an individual's employment. Submission to or rejection of such conduct by an individual is used as a basis for employment decisions affecting such individuals, or when such conduct has the purpose or effect of substantially interfering with an individual's work performance or creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment. So this becomes kind of challenging because we live in a society where the burden of proof is often on the victim. And this is one of the major reasons why people don't report, because they don't want to have to go through the process of like collecting evidence and documenting all these events to prove that they're experiencing what they're saying they are. And even if they can do so, often organizational responses are underwhelming and not helpful to the victim, or may even make the situation worse for the victim. The reason that this sometimes can kind of happen is a lot of the communicative behaviors related to flirting and workplace romance are defined similarly as sexually harassing behaviors. So it can be a hard crime to prosecute or just document and provide that proof, which again, the burden falls on the victim. So it's very, very hard to hold people accountable for this sort of thing unless it's like very, very egregious, and often has witnesses or some sort of documentation. So it is important that us as individuals self-monitor our own communication and or behaviors that may be inappropriate or offensive to some people, because this is not some way that we want to make people feel, especially at their place of work where they come to do a job and make their money so they can live their life. Also somewhat related is communication privacy management. So it's important to avoid asking questions that may be deemed private unless the other party initiates the topic. So you don't want to go digging for people's personal information unless they demonstrate some sort of comfort in talking about these subjects. They will initiate these conversations through self-disclosure or information that they voluntarily share about themselves. Now we'll wrap up with talking about professional etiquette in the workplace. Professional etiquette is defined as practicing behaviors of social etiquette or good manners in a professional setting. So like greeting people when you see them, not interrupting others when they are speaking or having a conversation with somebody else. And even though many people in professional positions display poor manners, it's still not professional, and it's certainly unacceptable behavior for someone striving for professional excellence. Sorry. If you do get one thing out of this class, I hope this is it. And even if you already know all this and how important it is, remember to actively practice your netiquette in your emails with me and on your discussion boards posts with your class. And also to just practice these behaviors in general in your other classes and any jobs or extracurricular activities that you all are a part of during your college career, so that by the time you enter the business and professional arena, you are ready and you know how to demonstrate that you understand and can conduct yourself in a way that is professional and with etiquette. So that is all for today. We defined interpersonal communication and then talked about the different types of workplace relationships that we can have. And we distinguished between professional and personal communication, both which occur in the workplace, and wrapped up with a discussion about professional etiquette in the workplace and how important it is when striving and achieving for excellence. So that is all for this one, and I will see you in the next video.